നമസ്കാരം. മെട്രോ മലയാളം ഓസ്ട്രേലിയയുടെ നാട്ടിൽ എവിടെയാ എന്ന ചാറ്റ് ഷോയിലേക്ക് ഏവർക്കും സ്വാഗതം. ഇന്ന് നമ്മോടൊപ്പമുള്ള അതിഥി സെൻറ്റർ ഫോർ ഓസ്ട്രേലിയ ഇന്ത്യ റിലേഷൻസ് സിഇഒയും മലയാളിയുമായ ടിം തോമസ് ആണ്. അദ്ദേഹത്തെ ഇൻ്റർവ്യൂ ചെയ്യുന്നത് ഓസ്ട്രേലിയ ഇന്ത്യ ബിസിനസ് കൗൺസിൽ നാഷണൽ അസോസിയേറ്റ് ചെയറും NSW സ്റ്റേറ്റ് പ്രസിഡന്റുമായ ശ്രീ ഇർഫാൻ മാലിക്.
And National Cigar. Nice to meet you. Great to see you. And as we kick off, when two Malayalis meet, we say, Naatil Evideya, where are you? What's the legacy, and your history, the whole story of your origin from Kerala, the linkages to Kerala, but also, your story of being an Australian migrant and how your experience has been growing up in Australia, I suppose.
So Naatil Evideya പറയുമ്പോൾ, so my dad is from a place called Muttar in central Travancore.
Wow.
വീട് പേര് Chettikad. Mother is from a place called Maraman in Corangerry, famous for the Maraman Christian Convention.
Wow.
And ഇവിടെ പറയുമ്പോൾ, I live in Kirribilli in Sydney. My parents and my sister are in Melbourne. And I have two lovely daughters in Sydney as well.
Beautiful.
And of course Sydney is our home. Kerala is our home. We're very fortunate to be global citizens with that Malayalee, Melbourne, Sydney connection.
Great. And you were born in Melbourne, Australia? Is that
Melbourne, Argentina. So I was born in the early 70s after parents migrated to Melbourne from Mumbai initially, but originally, of course, before that from Kerala. And born in Melbourne, spent a good amount of time in Asia for 14 years, and then came back to Sydney in end of 2017.
Excellent. And what was growing up in a Melbourne Malayali community? Did you have a lot of interaction with the Malayalis there and the rest of the Indian diaspora community?
Yeah, very many fond memories of the Malayali community in Melbourne. We were a very small community at that time. Dad was one of the founders of the Malayali Association.
Wow, that's amazing.
I think 1976.
Oh, adiboli.
So we were very involved, but not just through the formal organizations, of course. Whenever a Malayali family comes to Melbourne, in those days we were one of the very few families that were around to host them. So I grew up getting to know a very broad spectrum of people visiting as well as people in our local Melbourne community. And they're all part of one big happy family there.
Great. And did you have a lot of celebrations with the community? And did you travel back to India as well often, Kerala and all?
Yeah, indeed. Certainly the celebrations. Onam, of course, was the biggest celebration we had in the Malayali community. Even today, my mom celebrates Onam in an amazing day away in her place, where she invites old and new friends from Melbourne, around the Malayali community there. And this, of course, visiting to Kerala was something we did every 2 years. And I've still got very, very close family and friends in Kerala.
What is a few, if you were to reflect on sweet memories of Kerala, you visiting Kerala and connecting back with the Malayalis there?
Yeah, so Cheetagalli, wow, one of those things. So I wasn't quite an avatar expert, but certainly Christmases in Kerala was when we were there, spending time with my grandparents.
The carols and all.
Christmas carols are just an incredible time of the year to be there. Yeah. The stars that light up the households in Kerala.
Yeah.
In there, the Kudume Ogams from my mom's side, from my dad's side, we would try and participate in those and see the broader spectrum of family.
Great. Thank you for sharing your story, and I think it's amazing to see a global Malayali from Australia to really, step up and being recognized and appointed as the inaugural CEO of what's been positioned as an amazing organization, Centre for Australia-India Relationship. Congratulations to you for this appointment, and I think very excited as a Malayali, as a Indian, part of the Indian diaspora about this organization and your role. So wish you well, and let's hear more about the Centre of Australia-India Relationship. Give us a bit of an overview of what this is all about. And obviously, there is a lot of expectation. People are keen to know some of the objectives, intent, and some of the outcomes. If you want to share a bit more insights of Center for Australia-India Relations.
Yeah, no, thank you. And thank you for your kind words of congratulations. It's certainly a privilege for me. It's a privilege for my family that this appointment has happened. It's I would say, a culmination of a lot of my personal story, but also my professional life, to be able to be the inaugural CEO of such a center set up in such an interesting time in the Australia-India relationship. This is the federal government's significant investment in the Australia-India relationship. It has been set up as the apex body for the federal government, the center of gravity, the national center, the convening power, to bring together all aspects of the relationship, from the business side, from the cultural side, from the policy development side, from the Indian diaspora side. It's very broad.
Wow.
And that's what I love about it. But it's an amazing opportunity to really deepen our people-to-people ties between Australia and India.
Yeah, I think you touched on, obviously there's a broad spectrum of objectives and, intent here. But I'm sure you've got certain, focus area priorities as well. And you touched on the people-to-people connect side. So if you want to elaborate a little bit more, and then also reflect on what are the priorities from your perspective.
Yeah, so Irfan, if I was to describe it firstly in diplomatic terms, and there is no doubt that if we can deepen and broaden our people-to-people ties between Australia and India, then we will make that relationship long-lasting, resilient, able to work together as Australia and India in bookends of the Indian Ocean, prosperity and stability in our region. So those people-to-people ties are incredibly important. It is across the cultural side, sporting side, social life, educational links. The government has very properly recognized that the role of the Indian diaspora in those people-to-people links are very, very important. There was no better evidence when Prime Minister Modi came here in May, and as you know, I was quite involved in that visit, because he sees the Indian diaspora as a core part of our multicultural identity in Australia. And so that is critical. The center is very interested in bringing and harnessing that Indian diaspora to deepen our relationships across the two countries.
Great. And I hear that the center is moving to the west and to Parramatta. So what are the plans? When is it going to be launched? I'm sure it's in the works. But what are the plans with the center and some of the programs that you would be looking to kick off in Parramatta?
Yeah, look, Parramatta is a very natural hub for our center. We are a national center, but to establish our hub in Parramatta is incredibly symbolic, but it's also very pragmatic. The symbolic is, of course, that Parramatta represents a very, very large Indian diaspora and a very vibrant Indian diaspora. Of course, you have the announcement of now Little India, the gateway to Little India that Prime Minister Modi made. But beyond the cultural and the community side, we think that there is going to be an amazing attachment that we can make to the entrepreneurial activity of Parramatta. I've spent some time now with the Lord Mayor, Samir Pandey, with the University of Western Sydney, with Andrew Charlton, who's the federal MP for Parramatta. And there's a very specific vision of Parramatta to become an entrepreneurial hub for Australia. And the Indian diaspora can play a key role.
Yeah, great. And I think just sharing some of those insights, establishing that entrepreneurial ecosystem connect, not only bringing, successful Indian diaspora who've been doing phenomenally well, and we've had some great success stories, even from Malayalee community, second generation Malayali is really doing well as well. Now, linking that back to India and the strong startup ecosystem, innovation ecosystem we have, I think it's very well said. And are you looking at programs to support those cross linkages? And how do we look at bringing some of the ecosystem here together as well?
Well, firstly, I think the Indian diaspora is very well serviced in its, call it, community organizations. So I think the center can only amplify and encourage them. But where we think the Indian diaspora can play a really exciting role is in building our economic ties.
Yeah.
And when I talk about economic ties, I'm talking about trade between the two countries. I'm talking about strategic investments. Australian companies and Indian companies investing together in each country or even for global opportunities. And then in the innovation ties between the two countries, the knowledge partnership. Indian diaspora for us, there's an opportunity to really make them the true economic agents of change.
Amazing.
And if we think about the various segments of that business community, let's start with the SME community. There are Australian companies today run by Indian diaspora or from non-Indian Australians who are looking to now access the Indian market. So can we stand up programs that can help Indian diaspora be part of that ecosystem that can help connect Australian SMEs with the burgeoning market opportunities in India? That could be as part of the digital economy. We know now that in India there are around 900 million people who use the internet and who are ready to trade and invest in the internet. So there's great opportunities for Australian companies to plug into that. But it's much more broader than that. And so we want to stand up programs that can really connect entrepreneurs, aided by the role of the Indian diaspora in accessing the Indian market.
Strong Malayali startup ecosystem here, and also in Kerala, got one of the largest startup ecosystem in Kerala Startup Mission as well. And we're looking for, forging closer ties as well. So, well said. Tell us more about the Maitri grants. Obviously, there was a lot of talk, and of course, you have had the first round announced as well. Some of the intent with the Maitri grants that you have at Center for Australian Work.
Yeah, it is a very big part of what the center does. There'll be 4 categories of grants. One has already been launched, which is the cultural partnerships. I'll come back to that, but that is very much around how can we encourage, amplify, catalyze linkages between Indian Australian cultural programs and non-Indian Australian cultural programs, so that exchange to mainstream Indian culture into our multicultural society. But the second aspect is two-way exchange of cultural programs and artists between Australia and India. And if you look at the first 6 that we have granted, we did our first program in June, the foreign minister announced it. All of those meet those criteria of incredible opportunities to link the Indian Australian community with the mainstream multicultural community. And in fact, in that first set of grants, there are 2 programs that will involve Kerala.
Wow.
Nothing to do with my Kerala roots. These are independently chosen, but imply fantastic opportunities to bring together our Kerala cultural roots with our multicultural setting here. The second grant category is around scholarships. We'll be supporting PhDs and masters programs of students from India, top Indian students, to be in our Australian universities in the STEM fields that link to areas that are very critical to our common future, in energy transition, advanced manufacturing, in critical technology. So that's the second category. The third category will be what we call fellowships. That's going to be encouraging think tanks between Australia and India for two-way exchange. And what are we trying to achieve there? We're trying to make sure people in Australia have a very contemporary understanding of what's happening in India. And the fourth will be around research, which will look at case studies. How do we use success stories to amplify and catalyze other success stories in our Australia-India corridor?
Right, great news, and great to hear about that Kerala connection as well with first round. And I'm really looking forward to really knowing more about it and how we can support as a community. We obviously represent one of the largest global Malayali network, diaspora network globally, around 80 plus countries, and a strong network in Australia as well. So really looking forward to not only Australian diaspora, Malayali diaspora to be linked with some of these initiatives, but also how a global Malayali diaspora can also amplify, as you called it out. So it's a really exciting story. And let me again reflect back as a second generation Malayali here growing up, and obviously there are a lot more second generation Malayali and of course first generation Malayalis as well. How can we all connect or leverage or contribute to Center for Australia Relations?
Well, in many different ways. I think we have to continue to do the good work that we're doing, promoting our cultural heritage and making that accessible to the Australian community. I would also encourage the Malayali community to link very closely with our other regional communities, because we are strongest as an Indian diaspora when we are united together. And that's very important, whether it be in the social organizations, cultural organizations, that unity is really important. because that's how mainstream state of Olympia works, all that. Much more easy. But then secondly, when there are, success stories around entrepreneurialism, we want to amplify in our throughout and encourage the philosophies involved in that area. And then adding areas which result in awesome innovation that can contribute to a more diverse multicultural setting outside the Venezuela. Great.
I think we really look forward to actively engaged and also leverage and contribute to the initiative. So now it's Onam time as well, as we look forward later this month to celebrate as a global Malayali community, but as a global diaspora as well. The Australians have always cherished Onam here in Sydney or across Australia. So what's your key message? Of course, we're all dressed up as well for the Onam festivities. I wish you Onam Ashrams to go. But what's your message to the broader Malayali community and all the diaspora as well?
I wish a very happy and peaceful Onam to our global Malayali family. It's a beautiful time of the year. We have so much to celebrate with our family and our loved ones. It is the harvest season.
Yeah.
It is the time to be grateful for all that we have access to, but to share also in that joy of honor. So I wish all of our fellow Malayalis a wonderful Onam season.
Thank you, Tim. And what a better place to be here with the backdrop of Harbour Bridge and Opera House. Wishing you all a happy Onam Ashrams to the global Malayalis, Australian Malayalis, and all the global diaspora as we celebrate Vasudhaiva Kudumbakam. World is one big family. And with India celebrating the G20 presidency as well with that team, we look forward to really, working closely with Tim. Tim, congratulations, best wishes. We look forward to closely working with you to really deliver and support you on some of the outcomes that you're looking forward to and closely engage as the Malayali diaspora as well. Welcome again and thank you and wish you well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Namaskaram.
Namaskar.